Welcome to the Raw Coding YouTube channel. My name is Anton, and today we're going to be following up on a comment left on my previous video of why I don't use Mediator, which asks, how do you do domain events using Mediator? The real answer to the question is you don't. You would essentially need some kind of messaging framework with asynchronous queues, also known as channels, and then some kind of workers, and then potentially you want it to be cloud services so the operations can be distributed. I've already made a video on this topic where I talked about how you shouldn't let Mediator hold you back. If you want to go into this territory, go ahead, try Wolverine and Service Bus. I think Nick Chapsas made a video about mass transit recently. You can go ahead and check it out. There are options out there. Specifically in this video, I'm going to show you how you do Mediator style notifications. So don't forget, if you're enjoying the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section or come ask them on my Discord server. Don't forget to check out the description, follow me on Twitch, and I have a C# course. If you're interested in knowing C# as I do it, I highly recommend you check it out. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Here are the two projects. The big M is the Mediator approach, DIY is do it yourself. In the big M approach, what we have is Mediator registration, we get all of our handlers, and then we want to submit to events, and all of them will be executed with some kind of strategy. And this is actually a new thing that's been added on 14th of February. And let this be the main message, or why I want you to try to implement these things yourself. Because if you know how to implement these yourselves, it doesn't matter if the library contains a feature that you want or doesn't. If you know how to do this yourself, you don't care. You just go ahead and implement it. You don't need to wait for this to be available in the library. So anyway, before it was a for loop looping over your tasks, now it's actually a task when all implementation. Here we're publishing two events. We have the ping, that is just a simple message, which then gets processed by two handlers. Here, same thing happens, though we have a pong, and that gets processed by two handlers. I'll start the application. We're gonna call run. We're gonna pop back over here, and we're gonna see all of the handlers get triggered for both of these messages, right? So nothing too exciting. One particular thing that I wanna highlight is that you're selecting a strategy for both types of messages. You cannot variate the strategy, or you will need to implement something in the middle, like another Mediator, right? So again, Mediator is a good cookie cutter solution that says you do things this way. It's a good structure, but you will struggle to deviate, or you will basically fall into what I'm going to show you now is how you do your DIY stuff. All right. So here we have program CS. Here we're going to be filling out our stuff, and I borrowed the code from the previous video where I'm just loading all of the handlers. All right. For the ping, we have exactly the same setup, although without any of the interfaces. And for the pong, we have exactly the same setup as well. I'm injecting the loggers over here just to simulate the feeling of, listen, I have services in my handlers, so I actually need to inject them. Otherwise, there will be code explosions everywhere, and that is fine. So the handlers are registered with the dependency injection container based on their name. If I have the ping message over here, I just go ahead and create another handler, remove the foo over here, introduce a constructor, right? Super simple stuff. You know exactly what's being executed here. Let's say that this is foo handler. We'll do the same for the ping bar handler. Got the first and the second. You then got the exact same function. And instead of it being asynchronous, you just go ahead and return task when all. You take your foo handler, and then you handle the notification with the cancellation token. And you do the same with the bar handler. You handle this notification with the cancellation token. All right. So you have this one handler over here. You then go to the pong over here. You place this over here. This is going to be a pong handler. All of these, say that I want pong over here. And there we have it, two handlers. Now, wherever I want to invoke this, I have my ping handler. So ping handler. Let's make sure we import this. And then the pong handler. Now, in the big M solution, we have something like this. So I'm just going to do the same. And by the way, if you have this sort of structure, I know you're looking at this right now and you're like, why would I do something like this, right? There are other approaches, and I'm going to show you them in just a minute. But for the simplest thing that you can do, this is pretty much it. So you would take your pong handler, handle this new ping message with the cancellation token none. Obviously, I haven't set them to default, but you would basically have something like this, right? And then make sure that we have this as asynchronous. Open up the terminal, run the application with this here now. Let's run. This is okay, and we have the same result. If you have 5 or 10 of these, this is a perfectly fine solution. If you're stepping into the range of 20s, 100s, and you're like, oh my god, dude, how many more of these do I actually need to define? This is where I would say, okay, yes, you don't want to do something like this. You want to comment out your God handlers and you want to build something a little bit more abstract, right? Well, give this a copy and leave this old copy dangling over here. And at this point, we will be stepping into the area where, yes, we are re-implementing Mediator. So we would have an iNotification handler of some kind of type. You would then have your handle message. So let's grab this over here, place this here. We'll say that the cancellation token is default. Mark up your services with this. So this handles ping. Say that this is default. Same for the second one. This is default as well. And then for the pong. So pong over here. Pong over here as well. One thing I noticed is that I'm not supplying a generic type over here, so it's complaining. So let's fix that. Make the cancellation tokens default as well. And as I finish marking up, I briefly again wanted to fall back to this point that if you are making these individual handlers, you can say that I want to do task when all here, or I want to do a for loop and actually enforce some kind of order in which these notifications are handled. So you have mixed options that you can have, right? So you actually have more choice than you would have in Mediator. But if you would want multiple strategies, you would actually have to fall back and have something like this, or you would have to introduce another notification to trigger something else to happen, okay? But anyway, since we have this interface, we would have to write a little bit of something to register. So again, as mentioned in the previous video, this reflection code, it's tough business. It can be pretty complicated, right? So we're loading all of the types that we have in our application. We have the interfaces, and I want to check if there are any interfaces, so where the interface would have a generic type definition, right? So when we're talking about get generic type definition, this is the generic type definition. When we're looking at this interface over here, this is no longer generic, this is concrete. So this is concrete definition, and this is generic definition. So we don't want to refer to this as this thing, we want to refer to its original form. So this is why you say get generic type definition, and then whoop-de-doo, you check it against this generic type definition, so you're not specifying the actual type. And what we want to do is grab this interface and register this service against this interface. So when it comes to registering this type, we want to do exactly the same thing, although instead of any and instead of X, we will say type. We want to grab first, we know that it's going to be there, and we want to make sure that the generic type definition again equals this thing. You can do slightly smarter things like select a tuple out of here, so then you can deconstruct it here, but here is essentially it. If you're a junior, you want to watch out. You don't want to touch this senior engineer 3000 level code, but you do want to get better at your profession. So, play around with this in your own free time. Once we have registered all of these types behind this iNotification handler, we can actually create our own service, which is going to handle this stuff. So public class notifier, I'm not sure what else to call it, where in here service provider, you have your service provider, you then have your task, handle, some kind of message, also have a cancellation token, CT, you can set it to default from the beginning, and then you can use your service provider to get required service where you're getting all of the things that are notification handlers of this specific type. And then same as I replied in the comment, this is basically what you're going to have. For each handler, you then grab the handle method, you pass the message down to it, and you pass the cancellation token if you have. And indeed, let me put this actually in the middle, so maybe it's a little bit easier to see. You can have a when all of these messages have been completed, or return a task, which basically executes all of this. All right. So you'd have something like this. So you grab your notifier, you register it separately because, it is special. Place it right over here. Then we take it, place it over here, notifier. Not much to say, but other than to just use the notifier. And again, we're pretty much at the same solution here. So, I mean, like 20 lines of code here, maybe 10 more lines of code here. So 30 lines of code, your own mediator, but because it's yours, you can actually do whatever the fuck you want with it, right? Let's go ahead and restart the application, make sure that it works. We get a big fat explosion. We gotta make sure that our interface is actually generic. So let's just make sure that it is. So is generic type. And this is super complicated stuff. There we go. Come back over here, hit run. And there we go. The result is exactly the same. This will be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And again, the main message for the video is that I do not dislike Mediator. I believe that you as a programmer are capable of creating simple solutions, simple tools for yourself. You've seen it here, 30 lines of code. Do you want to download a left pad, right pad, 2 different packages into your JavaScript project, or do you just implement it yourself? Obviously, Mediator is a little bit more than that, but you gotta basically ask yourself, what kind of ecosystem do you want to live in? Where engineers are capable of implementing this sort of stuff themselves, or being told, use Mediator, and that's basically just the end of story. You just sit there and you use Mediator and you're happy. My personal stance on the matter is, again, I don't care what you do specifically, just as long as you understand how to do this stuff yourself. If Mediator disappears from NuGet Package Manager tomorrow, what are you gonna do? With that, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments section, and make sure you come join the Discord server and ask the question there as well. Or maybe, yeah, just ask either here or there. You get it. If you would like the source code for this video as well as my other videos, please come support me on Patreon. I will be very happy with your contributions, and a special and big thank you goes out to all my current Patreon supporters. You help me make these videos. As always, thank you for watching and have a good day.